Are you trying to save money but struggling to stay within your budget? Are the temptations around you constantly putting you on the verge of making impulse purchases? Are you tired of feeling out of control? Don't worry, especially if you're new to budgeting. Even if you have been budgeting for a while, these challenges may creep up on you from time to time. I have been budgeting for several years now. The beginning of my budgeting journey was the hardest, and although my budgeting habits are second nature to me by now, I still find myself face to face with some of these challenges from time to time. In this video, I will be sharing 5 challenges with budgeting and tips on how to deal with these challenges. These are challenges that I have personally experienced and tips that I have put into practice myself. Being unrealistic with your budget. If you're just starting out and you set a new monthly budget that is a world away from how much you were spending the month before, it might work for a few days, but chances are that it would not be sustainable. This is because you would be expecting a lot of changes from yourself in terms of your spending habits and day-to-day behaviors. I am guilty of this. Before I went on the budget, my food expenses were around $600 per month. This consisted of many takeout meals, a handful of homemade meals, and at least one good restaurant meal every week with friends or family. When I created my budget, I wanted to reduce my food expenses by half, which is $300 per month. To keep within this amount, it meant that I would have to eat at home regularly. I was essentially expecting myself to immediately switch from habitually spending money eating out to habitually making my own meals at home. Old habits take time to break and new habits take time to form. Needless to say, I failed. It was demoralizing, but I did set myself up to fail by being too hard on myself. My tip for this is to be kind to yourself and start small. Rather than expecting yourself to be a whole different person overnight, make small changes over time. Calculate the difference between your current spending and your ideal spending, and then slowly reduce your allocated spending each month until you reach your goal. In my case, I could have started by reducing my allocation for food by $50 every month. That's about the price of one restaurant meal and maybe a few takeout meals. Switching them out will require increasing the number of homemade meals by about one every week. This would have been a lot more manageable than increasing the number of homemade meals by 5 to 6 per week. So be kind to yourself and know that changing your habits takes time. Give yourself some breathing space so that this journey is sustainable for you. Giving in to convenience. There will always be those days when you are just so jaded from work and from life, when all you want is to make use of all the conveniences available to make your day a little bit easier. Taking a cab over public transportation, getting food delivery instead of making your own meal, hiring someone to clean the house or to walk your dog rather than doing it yourself. Convenience always comes at a price. Some days we do need them for an emergency or when we are unwell, and that's okay. If you genuinely need certain conveniences on a regular basis due to your personal circumstances, they should be part of your budget in the first place. For example, when public transportation is not an option where you live, or when your time spent working is earning you more money than the time and cost of hiring someone to clean your house or to walk your dog. The issue arises when you start to find excuses to allow yourself to indulge in these conveniences though you might not need it, when it's more of a want than a need, when it's happening on a regular basis and when you don't have the money for it. The times when these conveniences challenge my discipline are usually when my energy levels are low at the end of the workday. I fight the temptation to call for a cab instead of taking a 45-minute train ride during peak hour. If I do take the train, which means having to squeeze with the peak hour crowd, I have even less energy left to fight the temptation to get a takeout meal as I walk past the shops on the way home. The cost of one takeout meal may not appear to be much. The repeated practice of getting them is where the cost starts to add up. My tip for this is to remove barriers to doing things the inconvenient way. Make doing the things that you need to do as easy for yourself as possible when it comes time to do it. My challenge was the lack of energy to make my own meals after work, which had me resorting to convenient takeout meals. Meal preparation over the weekend was my key to aligning myself to my budget. By spending a couple of hours doing all the washing, chopping, cooking, and packing of each meal into different containers over the weekend, It reduced a lot of effort needed during the work week. All I had to do was 3 simple, almost effortless steps. Open the fridge, take out a container, and pop it into a microwave. By reducing the number of steps and effort needed, it's harder for you to find excuses for yourself to deviate from your budget. Another tip is to flip that method around and add barriers to doing things the convenient way, which means making it difficult for yourself to do them. So my temptation was to call for a cab at the end of the workday. By removing the ride-hailing apps from my phone, it's a hassle to have to download and reinstall the app and to find the login details for my account before I could hail a ride. Through increasing the number of steps and effort needed, it's less likely that you'll spend unnecessarily on conveniences. Buying stuff you don't need but want. With e-commerce a norm these days, you can get whatever you need and want through a few taps on your phone. This has made it ever so easy for us to fall prey to our impulses and make regret purchases. I scrolled on my phone not only when I needed to make purchases, but also when I was bored. So many items that I mindlessly bought were used once or twice and then left forgotten, lying around the house taking up space and gathering dust. They were a source of stress and eventually went to the donation pile or to the bin if they couldn't be donated. Not only was this behavior not good for the environment, it definitely wasn't good for my budget. My tip for this is to play the waiting game. Be mindful of every time you shop, online or in stores. If you are intrigued by an item that you do not really need but want, put it in your online shopping cart or take a photo of it if you are at a store, and then walk away. Promise yourself that you will wait 3 days or even a week before coming back again. In that period, you may lose interest or sometimes you no longer want to purchase it, and that's great. You have avoided unnecessary spending. Other times you may still want the item. Okay, check if it's within your budget for the month. If not, you'll have to wait for the next month. If yes, then see if there is a less expensive alternative, perhaps a pre-loved one from a second-hand shop, or wait for a sale. You have not avoided the expenditure, but you have saved a bit of money in the process. You may even cherish it more than if you had bought the item right there and then. While it definitely wasn't easy to wait and do nothing at the beginning, the more that I consciously practiced it, the more it became second nature for me. Not only did it save me from several impulse purchases, my house was less cluttered and easier to clean without unused stuff piling up, and I have a better appreciation of the things that I own. Another tip is to set spending limits based on your budget. With most transactions being cashless these days, most of our spending can be put on a credit or debit card. You can set a transaction limit on the credit or debit card based on your budget. If you're living in an area that transacts primarily in cash, or if you prefer to use cash, at the start of each month, withdraw the cash that you will need for that month and put your ATM card away. This is similar to the earlier tip on setting barriers for yourself to avoid unnecessary spending. With card transaction limits in place, going beyond your budget in the heat of the moment would require you to take a few steps. Logging into your online banking account to adjust the limit. The thought of taking these steps will slow you down and give you time to rethink your actions. However, one mistake that I realized in hindsight was overspending in one category, such as food, by using money meant for another category of expense, such as household. So to redeem myself and keep to my budget, I reduced the amount of money for household items for that month. As long as you're not using money from a fixed expense category, such as taxes or rent, it's okay to be flexible across the non-fixed expense categories from time to time, as long as the total expenditure is within your budget. Being influenced by social media and peers. When you hear your peers or favorite influencers raving about a certain product that they recently bought or an experience that they recently went for, you may be tempted to try it out because you don't want to feel left out. In the heat of the moment, you reach for your phone or laptop, and within a few clicks, you find yourself with that said product or ticket to that experience. This is different from trying something new that you have never done before or retrying something that didn't give you a good experience before, which are typically deliberate decisions. What I am referring to is FOMO-driven spending. These purchases are driven by external factors, and you may not have wanted to make them had your favorite influencers or peers not talked about it. Spending money on something that you don't really want is worse than spending money on things that you want but don't need. I have made several impulse purchases in the past because of what I saw and heard online and from my friends or colleagues. I have purchased a longboard, which was around $80, that I used about twice at the beginning and is now sitting in the storeroom serving as a place for my tabletop ironing board to rest on. I have many clothing items that I bought after seeing my peers and favorite influencers wearing them. These items are now sitting in my wardrobe gathering dust because I don't actually like them. If I were to tally the cost of those items, they would probably add up to hundreds of dollars. Most of the FOMO driven spending has made me feel bad about myself because the products and experiences that I spent my money on do not reflect who I am or who I want to become. They are reminders of what I am not and do not want to become. The tips about waiting a few days or even a week before allowing yourself to make the purchase and setting automatic spending limits based on your budget would apply in this situation too. Another tip, which is something that I realized in hindsight recently, is to know yourself better and learn to say no. If you don't already know what you want, what you value, and what you aspire to, spend some time getting to know yourself. I didn't know myself or what I wanted until my mid to late 20s. Once I got to that stage, I realized that many of my buying decisions changed. I am no longer willing to spend a single cent on products or experiences that are not aligned with me or what I want. That clarity allowed me to not be swayed easily by external influences and be able to say no to things that I don't want, value, or aspire towards. Being invited to social activities beyond your budget. Your friends or colleagues are inviting you to lunch or dinner at a pricey restaurant, to catch a movie at a cinema, or to attend a ticketed event. But you have participated in a few activities this month, and the money that you have allocated for social activities is running low. Or maybe you're not particularly keen on the activity and do not want to spend your limited money on it. On several occasions, I was either low on money or not interested in the activity, but felt pressured to say yes for the social element. At work, I didn't want to appear antisocial by rejecting these invites, as these activities outside of work are important for team bonding. Also, it was difficult to say no when everyone had already said yes. As for friends and family, I didn't want to bail out on something that they are excited about and wanted someone to enjoy the experience with. So my tip for this is to share with them about your financial goals if you are able to. Tell them the reason why you are unable to join this round and help them understand the financial goals that you're working towards. They might be interested in learning about what you are doing, and you might even gain a companion on your journey. Having someone who is working towards the same goals as you will only increase your own motivation towards your own goals. If, for whatever reason, they trample on or question your goals, then they are not the kind of people that are worthy of your time anyway. The fear of people putting down my goals and placing doubts in my mind was a major reason why I have been hesitant to be transparent about my financial goals for many years. But the more that I worked towards and progressed towards my goals, the more I believed in myself and the less affected I was by naysayers. This eventually gave me the courage to be open about my financial goals and to share with my friends why I would sometimes have to decline their invitations. I wish I had that belief in myself from the outset to save me from multiple occasions of overspending on social activities. So trust yourself and your goals, and don't be afraid to explain that you can't participate in some social activities from time to time. Friends who care about you will respect your goals and decisions, and those who don't are not deserving to have you spend your time and money with them anyway. Another tip is to suggest alternative activities or another time. If, for whatever reason, it's not appropriate for you to share about your financial goals with others, you could counter-suggest more affordable alternatives and/or reschedule the planned activity for the next month. Some alternatives could include having a picnic over dining at a restaurant and streaming a movie at home over watching one at the cinema. For me, it isn't appropriate to tell my colleagues or supervisors about my goal to be financially free so that I could quit my day job and spend my time doing stuff I love more than my job. As I work towards financial freedom, my day job remains my bread and butter. I don't want to alter the perception of my commitment to my job and hence jeopardize any opportunities of advancement or progression, which would actually help me move closer to my financial goals. So the next best choice for me to deal with social invites from colleagues is to counter-propose activities of choice or taking a rain check. So there you have it, 5 of my most common budgeting challenges and tips on how to deal with them. Thank you for watching until the end of this video, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!